Hello, welcome back to Django tutorial. In this video, I am going to explain model form in a Django. Using model form, we can create HTML form by using model. It is efficient way to create the form without writing HTML code. Using model form, we can reduce the form file content. So model form in Django provide helper class that let you create a form class for Django model. This helper class is called a model form. I will explain the solution through the coding so that you will understand each and every process thoroughly. So let us start the discussion through coding. First of all, I'll create a project using command Django admin start project, name of the project. So model underscore project. Once we create a project, we need to create one of the application under that project. So I'll go into the project folder, model project, and I'll create the application. So Python manage.py start app, name of the application. So here in my case, I'll use coder as an application. Once we create an application, then we need to install that application under the Django so that Django will recognize that application. So for that purpose, we need to open the project folder and go under the setting.py file. So scroll down that file and find the install app. Under the install application, some inbuilt app already there. We need to add our customized application. So here I will add a coder application so that Django will understand this application is installed. After that, we'll add the template folder under this project. So under the model project, I'll create a new folder that is a template. Under the template, I'll create the application folder that is a coder. And under the coder, we can create a multiple HTML files. So here I'll add index.html. I'll add the code afterwards under this file. So again, we need to do the setting of this template. So I'll go into the project folder, and under the project folder, you can find setting.py file. Scroll down that file, and we need to modify now template. So under the template, we have to set this directory. So to set this directory, first of all, we have to import the OS so that we can reach to that directory. So I'll scroll the file to upward, and then I'll import the OS package. And then now I'll add that template directory. So under the dir list, I'm going to add os.path.join. Under the base directory, I want to add the template folder. That is template folders. So the setting of template is also completed. After that, we need to create a model. So to create a model, we need to open the application. So model consists of database that we want to preserve in our application. So whenever user enter any data from the HTML page, that will be preserved in this model. So I'll create a model now. To create a model, we need to create a class. Let's say coder model, and under that, I'm going to write models.model. Under this model, I'm going to write some attribute. So name is equal to models dot character field, and I want to set a certain maximum size to this attribute. So I'm going to set, let's say 55. That is the size of that attribute. Second attribute, I'll use a designation, and for that designation, again I'll use the same data type, that is a character field, and I'm going to set the max length to this attribute. Again, I'm going to use the same size, max length is 55. Next is I'm going to create an email field, and for that models.email field I'm going to use. Here also we can set a maximum size. So let it be, I use the same size here, 55. User will not enter more than 55 character for that email. Now once this model is get created, we need to convert this model into query. So to convert this model into query, we need to type a command Python manage.py make migration. Using that, this model is get migrated and converted into the query. Now this model is get created into the query form. You can find that file under the coder migration 001 underscore initial.py. So if I follow that coder migration, and you can find 001 initial.py file is get created. Now we need to migrate this data into the database. So for that purpose, we can type a command Python manage.py migrate. so that this complete table is get migrated into our database. So you can find this all the inbuilt and user defined database is been stored into the DB. So this part is get complete. After that, we need to design the form. Under the application, now we'll create a forms.py. Create new file, forms.py. This file is get created. So first of all, we'll import the package from Django import forms. And now we'll create a class. So before creating a class, we need to import that model. So from .model, we need to import name of our model, that is a coder model. Now I'll create a class which will convert our model into the form. So let it be coder form and forms dot I want to import the model form. So here you can find a model form. Under that we can write a class. Name of the class is let's say meta, and we'll import our model. So model is equal to name of our model, that is a coder form. Coder model. Now this coder model is get stored into this model object. And now if I want to retrieve a certain fields, sometimes you require a few fields, sometimes you require all the fields. So likewise, you can set a specific fields here. Let's say fields are equal to list of fields. Here I want to use, let's say name, I am looking from that model. Then I am looking the designation and also let's say email. So these three attributes that I want to use from that model. So this form is also get designed proper. So form is created, model is get created. So to write the business logic, we need to open the views.py file. So go into the views.py file and create one function which will render the data from that HTML page and will be preserved into our database. So I'll create a function, let's say definition of function, and I want to show the content of form. Show form, I'll create a function and I'll use just a request parameter. So whatever the data is submitted by the user will be preserved into our model. So I write if my request dot method, if my request dot method is a post, it means that method is get, let's say, post a certain data, then so I'll create the form object and I'll import that form. So to import that form, we need to write from dot forms import name of our form, that is a coder form. So first of all, I import that coder form, and now I'll use the form is equal to coder form. Whatever the parameter is seen by the user will be host. So request or post. Also, we need to validate the object. So if my form is underscore valid, if my form is valid, we can process the data through the variable. So name is equal to, I'm going to use the method, let's say clean data. So clean data for the name. Similarly, we can use for other parameter. Let's say designation, I'll use a des dot clean data. Let's say designation. And third, let's say email. So I'll use em fm dot clean data. And here I use the email field. So these three attributes are there in my database. Else, if this method is not post, so it will just display the content of form. So fm is equal to coder form, the data that we are going to use. And finally, we are going to render this data. So this form will return whatever the data is there. So request, then we need to set the template path. So I'm using coder application and I'm going to use this index.html. Whatever the data that I want to post in on the form, that I'll post to the dictionary. So form fm. So this data that I'm going to process onto this HTML page. So business logic is also completed under views.py. Now open the project folder, go under the template, Under the template, we have coder application and then index.html. So now under the index.html, we are going to add certain line of code. So HTML, under the HTML, I'm going to use a body tag. Under the body tag, I'm going to write a heading H4. And here I'll write the user, the coder details, not the user, coder details that we just write. Now we'll use a form tag, form. Action will keep a blank and method is post. We just complete the form. Under the form, we use a CSRF token that we already discussed in the last video. It's RF token. And under that, we can write the content of form dot. This method also discussed in the previous video. You can watch that video to understand more detail about this form. As also, if I want to just use one input that will submit the data, so I'll use the input submit and so use of value is equal to sub. End of input tag. So the HTML form is also get designed. Now everything is set. Now we need to set the URL for this project. So there are two types of URL that we can set. One is for project and one is for application separately. I will show you the way that how you can set the URL for this project and application. Open the project folder and go to the url.py. Certain code are already there under the url.py. We need to add a certain line code. First of all, I just use the include function because I want to include application under this URL pattern. So just add one more path over here. So path and let's say empty, and I'm going to use the include function, and under that include function I'm going to call the coders.urls. This file is not created. I'll create the file afterwards. So I just save this code and copy the content completely and create a new file under this coder application. So under the coder application, we can create a new file and name of the file is urls.py. And then I'll copy the content from project file to application. Some of the code I'll remove from this file. So these are the commented code that I won't require. Also, I don't want to include any application now. So I'll remove that include function as well. And for this application, I'm not going to use the admin path as well. So here I'm going to add my functions in the URL pattern. So first I'll import that view. So from coder application, import all the views. So views are get imported and I want to call the index function dot name of function. So already we write the function show form. I'll use that function show form. This way both the URL patterns has been sent to the project. Now I'll execute the project and try to check whether the content of the form is displayed properly or not. And then we'll go deeper into the model form. So to run a project, we'll type the command python manage.py run server. Once the project will run, just copy this URL and paste into the browser. We are in the index function. So we are going to use the index URL. You can find the coder details are there, like name, designation, and email submit button as well. If you just go to the source of this page, then you can find the source of this page properly there, which consists of max length is 55. Whatever the length we have set under this model form is correctly reflected to this HTML form. Now we will make the modification in the form class so that we can modify this label. Also, we can send some error messages when user try to submit the data using this form. Under the coding, I'm going to open the forms.py file, and inside the forms.py, we need to modify after these fields. So already we set these three fields. Now we have to add certain labels. So that labels we have to change. For that purpose, we will set the dictionary. Suppose the first parameter is name, and instead of name, I want to display the message like enter coder name, enter coder name. Similarly, I want to write the designation. So for the designation, I am going to write enter the coder role, and so on. We can make the modification for mail. Right. we set just this modification and again back to the browser. And we are going to refresh this page. We can find the modification has been made successfully. Enter coder name, enter the coder role. These two labels has been changed. When the user try to submit the data, at times so we can raise a certain error. So if I just try to submit this information, now this message is there, the field is required, the field is required, the field is required. This particular message we can change with our own message. So I'll again go back to coding. And now here I am going to add the error messages. So after this label, I'm going to write error messages is equal to and set a dictionary. And inside the dictionary, I'm going to set the validation for first attribute, that is name. And again, I'll create the dictionary. Let's say this field is required. And if user not enter that details, then message will be displayed like enter coder name is a must in the form. So this particular message I want to display if user will not submit the name of the coder. So again, I'll go back to the browser and I'll refresh this page. And I'm not enter the coder name, but I'm just enter the coder role and email address. And I'll try to submit the data. You can find now the messages get changed. Instead of field is required, now I'm getting my own error message on this form. So enter the coder name is must in the form. So likewise, we can set other error messages for role and email as well. Now, once the user will submit that data, it should be preserved into the database. So for that purpose, save method is there. This method create and save a database object from data bound of the form. So now we'll try to submit this information into the database. So I'll go into the models.py first. So if I go into the model.py, we have these three fields that will be preserved under the database. This model data we have to store into the database. So I'll go to the business logic under the views.py file. When a user posts certain data, it will get validated and it contains the information inside the name, designation and email address. So after this line, I'm going to add a certain line of code. So this data should be stored into the model. So what I need to do, I need to first import that model into this form. So first of all, I'm going to import the model. So from .models, I'm going to import the coder model. Once I import the model, then everything is get validated. After this line, I'm going to create a one object. That is, I want to preserve the detail. So data1 is an object which will be preserve this data. So what sort of data? Under the coder model, we have the three attributes. So name data is equal to nm, designation data is in the ds variable, and one more attribute is email. Email data is preserved under the email. So this data is collected into the object, and after that, we are going to save this object. So data1.save. And here I just print one. After that, I'm going to just write one message, print data is stored into the table. And just save the code and execute to the browser. So I'm going to go back to the browser and I'll submit that data. So I just refresh this page. And now fill the details. So let's say coder name is Gokul and role of the coder is, let's say, lead. And I fill the email address is gokul@gmail.com. And I'll try to submit the information. When I click on the submit button, the data is getting posted. So I validate that data, whether it's really posted onto the database or not. I'll go back to the coding again. And we can say a message is there, data is stored into the table. Now I want to check whether that data is really stored into my database or not. Now first we'll register this model into the admin.py. So we'll go into the admin.py and we'll register that model. So we are going to first write from .models. I'm going to import our coder model. Then we need to just register this model. So we are going to write admin.site.register and name of the model. So I want to register the coder model. This model is get registered. Then I'll type a command to create a super user. So Python manage.py create super users. I'm going to create one super user to execute the admin page. So we need to enter the credentials for super user. So I'm going to enter the username is admin, and email field I keep a blank. Password I just use admin. Again I use the same password admin, and I'm saying yes. So that super user is get created. Now I'll execute the project again. Once I execute the project, then I'll go back to browser. I will copy this URL and paste into another browser. And instead of index, I want to execute the admin page. So you can find the coder model is there. So if I click on the coder models, you can find the two objects are there. So what are the data that we have preserved through the form? Let's say coder model object 1. You can find the detail. Likewise, I can delete the model from here as well. So the data is correctly preserved into my database. So hope you understand the process of model form, how we can validate the data to the form class, as good as how we can preserve the data into the database. Thanks for watching this video.